WWE Clash of Champions 2020 is in the books now, and very interesting show. I would say a very solid show, not the best of the current, quarantine era, Thunderdome era shows, but really this show was very effective in doing a couple of things, specifically with the main event. Now, I thought for sure that the ambulance match between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton for the WWE title would close the show, and after watching the show, I still feel like it should have closed the show because not only was it a bigger, sort of higher profile gimmick match, not only did it have a lot of cameos from a lot of other superstars that are kind of legendary in that match, but also it was sort of the feud ender. And you would think that that would be a perfect way to kind of close this show, but instead they went with a different direction, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. So the actual closing match of the show was Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Jey Uso. And WWE is really, really, really focused on getting this heel Roman Reigns over as a top guy, as the top monster in the company. This is their goal. And I knew from the minute they booked this Jey Uso Roman Reigns feud exactly what they were going to do, but I was worried they were going to screw it up. And the good news is they did not screw it up. This was some fantastic stuff all throughout this entire thing. The entire purpose behind this match, because I know some people are probably like, okay, why didn't they do Roman Reigns against The Fiend or Braun Strowman, rematches? Why didn't they keep that feud going? They're going to go back to that feud at some point. But the reason as to why they even booked this match is because WWE wants to get us acclimated to this new heel Roman Reigns. And what they wanted to do was, and I knew it from the beginning they booked this feud, guys, right when they first booked it, the way it was supposed to go, and I knew it was Paul Heyman's fingerprints all over it. I'm not saying he's still, booking, but he definitely had a hand in coming up with the story behind this match. This is what pro wrestling needs, is things like this. No, Jey Uso is not a verifiable main event talent. He's not. He's been a tag team guy most of his career, but this is not about main event talent. This was supposed to be an emotional story of a family who is a real life family. Roman Reigns and the Usos are legitimate cousins. This is not a work. They actually are real-life cousins. And everything from the promos to the video packages, this was so well executed. The video packages for this match, the one they showed before this match, was so good. They had, home camera footage of them, hanging out. They had pictures of Roman Reigns and the Usos as kids meeting big-time wrestlers. They had Paul Heyman narrating how they come from this long line of Samoan legends like the Wild Samoans and Yokozuna and The Rock. And it's true, the Anoa'i family has been an integral part of WWE history for decades. Also, speaking of which, Michael Cole said that Paul Heyman had been managing champions for 20 years. No, but it's more like 30 years, like 35 years. Heyman's been around a long time. But still, that's not the point. This whole thing, this entire match was constructed to get nuclear heat on Roman Reigns. The entire purpose behind this match is to get the fans, us, to view him as the most despicable and vile person on the roster, and that this is not the same Roman Reigns who they've been trying to shove down our throat for 4 or 5 years. This is a new Roman Reigns, and the truth is, this was executed perfectly. No, I do not think it should have closed the show. I think the ambulance match is a much more effective finish to the show, but they really wanted the final visual of this show to be Roman Reigns standing over top his cousins after dominating them. And the thing about this match is that it was a really tremendous storytelling. They're talking trash to each other. The commentary team thankfully laid back and didn't say much during those moments. So you have Roman Reigns, talking trash, trying to get Jey Uso to kind of admit that he's the top dog in the family. Very personal. This is like the stuff that ECW used to do in the 90s. This is the stuff that old school wrestling, UWF, the stuff that we all kind of want again. That's what this was, and I got to give WWE credit because for this feud, the idea behind it, the purpose behind it, and the execution was great. Roman Reigns went in there and destroyed this man. And even though Jey Uso had some moments to shine, this whole thing was about Roman dominating him, and not only dominating him, but torturing him. Purposely torturing him, because the entire message was, if Roman Reigns is going to do this to his own members of his family, what's he going to do to somebody who's not a member of his family? A stranger. And Corey Graves literally said this at the end of the match, and it made me feel very validated because That's exactly what they were supposed to do, and they did it. It was tremendous execution. Roman Reigns, they are not kidding. They're gonna go hard with this Roman Reigns heel run. And it was a good way to kind of get nuclear heat on him by having him look over the Usos in disgust being the top guy in the family. The Usos did a great job here of selling the scariness that is this heel Roman Reigns. It worked. And the match I thought was a lot of fun. Again, not really a great closer. I think the previous match was a more effective closer, but it served its purpose. So Roman's not going to be going babyface for quite some time now. This is the new goal now, and this is what we're going to see. Now, I loved it. I loved his performance. I loved the commentary. Everything about this was executed perfectly. I gotta give WWE credit. You have to give them credit. They screw things up a lot, but when they do it right, they do it right. We also had the ambulance match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. Pretty good match. I must say, though, there were some things about this match. I really thought Randy was going to win, and Drew McIntyre wins. I love the finish where he punted him, to pay him back and threw him in the ambulance. That was all very effective stuff. WWE has been doing some great booking lately, but I do have some things that I question. For example, one of the things I loved about this match is that you had Shawn Michaels, Christian, The Big Show, and at the end, Ric Flair making cameos helping out Drew McIntyre. Now, as much as I love those cameos because they were done to effectively close out the story of Randy Orton, beating up people throughout the summer, because that's pretty much what he did. These are Randy Orton's victims throughout the entire summer of 2020, and they all kind of come back here to close out the summer with their revenge. That was some pretty cool kind of poetic justice. But at the same time, and I know some wrestling critics are going to talk about this soon, I know it's going to be a discussion topic. Why did it take 3 other guys helping the top babyface in the company, Drew McIntyre, to beat Randy Orton? That's going to be the big talking point. People are going to criticize it for this, and I must say that even though I understand their criticism, because Drew McIntyre already beat Randy Orton 2 pay-per-views ago clean, it's not really something that bothered me too much. You know what I mean? It's not something that bugged me. Drew would have won the match anyways. That was done more so to close the book on those feuds and for Randy Orton to get paid back. Edge, of course, is conspicuous by his absence. That feud's going to continue next year, I'm sure. I'm sure Edge and Randy's not over yet. But this was good stuff. And again, should have closed the damn show. As far as the rest of the show went, there were some last-minute changes that were changed. Nikki Cross, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax are not medically cleared. So Bayley was supposed to defend her title against Nikki Cross, but that was changed to it being an open challenge. And it turned out that Asuka, who's the Raw Women's Champion, and they had their match, of course, a couple months ago, or last month, whatever, filled in. Now, Asuka had already wrestled Zelina Vega earlier on in the show in kind of a nothing match. I think the match was supposed to get Vega over as this sort of impressive up-and-comer. I get the purpose of it, but I'm not buying Zelina Vega as a legitimate contender. I'm just not. But this was interesting because, Bayley got disqualified in the match with Asuka. Kind of a shit finish, I'm not going to lie. But they did this because they didn't want to have to go to a real finish. And then Sasha Banks showed up and attacked Bayley. So the Sasha Banks and Bayley feud is finally actually happening. I know they already shot the angle on SmackDown. I know all that, but hopefully this time they'll actually go through with it, because I'm pretty sure that Sasha's going to be the one to take that title from her. So that was kind of a mess. The Street Profits against Angel Garza and Andrade was a good match. A little bit of a weird finish there. And then R-Truth and Drew Gulak was a whatever match. And then Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews was also just there. Really, this show was decent because of the main events, the 2 main events, and because of the opening match, which was Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental title from AJ Styles and then also Jeff Hardy. It was a 3-way ladder match, and it was really awesome and kind of sick. They had a spot where he handcuffed Jeff Hardy's earlobe. It was disgusting. Really gross stuff. There was handcuffs involved. And, the thing about ladder matches, y'all, is that we've seen ladder matches for decades now, right? And if you watch a lot of the independents, you've seen crazy ladder matches, many of which Sami Zayn has been in when he was El Generico. Don't forget the classic Generico and Steen against the Briscoes from Ring of Honor ladder match that was said to be the greatest ladder match of all time, and it was crazy. These guys have literally broken the rules when it comes to ladder matches. But because we see so many ladder matches, we see them in all three companies. And when I say all three, I mean AEW, TNA, and WWE. But we also see them on the Indies. Not so much Japan. And then even in Mexico we see them. We've seen so many ladder matches throughout the years that it's very hard to come up with creative stuff. So they did try to come up with some creative stuff here. Like, for example, Sami Zayn handcuffing himself to AJ so he can't lift them up, so he can't climb the ladder. That was pretty creative. Like, it's getting harder and harder to book these ladder matches, which is why I feel that WWE should probably lay off of doing ladder matches. Other than Money in the Bank, maybe, I would say lay off of doing them for a couple years. You know what I mean? Honestly, because we have to kind of recharge our batteries here. But this was effective, and Sami Zayn looked like freaking... It was just kind of funny. He looked like, what's his name? Daniel Stern from Bushwhack with the wacky hair and the beard, and he wins the IC title. Again, these are three guys who are kind of, in some ways, internet darlings, guys who are considered to be these, like, high-flying nut bags or whatever, which I don't think that they really are anymore. I think AJ has evolved as a performer, and I think Jeff Hardy still does crazy stuff, but... not to the degree that he used to. Sami Zayn, of course, still, I think, one of the great independent high flyers, even though he hasn't been able to show that off in WWE. He is getting older, and you want to slow down the older you get. But I liked this match. I really did. So, ultimately, it was a 3-match show. The middle of the show was just trash. You can just skip it, honestly. To me, there was nothing interesting there at all. Like, nothing there interested me. But the 2 main events and the opener, I think, were great. And Asuka and Bayley was fine while it lasted, but it's not as good as their previous match, and I think that's the one you should watch. So overall, thumbs in the middle, slightly up. Again, I really do enjoy these shorter pay-per-views. I think they're 3 hours now, 2.5 hours. This one was about 3 hours. This one's 7 to 10, roughly, But again, the entire purpose of this show was to get Roman over as this monster, and to get Drew over as the babyface monster on the other brand, and it was effective. So if that's their goal, they accomplished it, and I got to give WWE credit because just the storytelling in the main event, just that by itself, I think really carried this show to being a good show. Just that by itself was so well done. Anyways, I'm out. Let me know what you thought about Clash of Champions. And next month, we got Hell in a Cell, which last year, Hell in a Cell was... if y'all were around, you know how much I hated that show. One of the worst shows the company's ever put on. The worst Hell in a Cell match in company history was last year with Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt. And I certainly hope that we don't have that bullshit this year. Thank you again. Let me know what you think about this show. And I love y'all. Take care of yourself and each other.